Hi everyone, this is Constellations here, and today I have for you guys the Dori math guide. So we're gonna take a short break from Cyno and talk about Dori because she's coming in a few days' time, and she's actually very pretty straightforward to build, more or less. But I'll show you guys based off the math and the stats, so we know whether attack is better, HP is better, going damage for 70 DPS or full support, etc. Now she's a HP skilling character, so her base HP is high, 12k at level 90, and she has HP percentage as her essential stat. We're gonna use Favonia's weapon because I want her to be filling the role of a battery as well. Okay. Now let me jump straight into the points. So we have talents, passive, constellations as usual for a new character, along with the constellation summary and kit summary. Important notes and assumptions, rotation, com, and ER. Dori's damage in this specific com because I did this Dori math quite long ago, was even before 3.0 was out. So this was the com that we were using. So I'm just gonna use whatever I have previously. Alright. The com is not that critical here. It's really more about how to build her. Okay. And we talk about TLDR, and then the Cyno video series was coming next. I actually have completed 2 Cyno math guides on top of the one that I've already published. So I'm also waiting to see if the leak changes are more or less confirmed or updated, so that I have more information and I can then update them before I publish the 2 Cyno math guides, which is basically 4TF in aggravate com with what do you call it? With 10-second Q and 18-second Q. Okay, but I'm digressing. So let's go straight back to Dori herself. So Dori, first off, let's look at the talents. Normal attack talent, marvelous sword dance, modified. Dori is not really an NAOC character, so you don't need to build this talent. Her CC is more like healing for all teammates, so it wouldn't really matter unless you really want to build her as any DPS, but I personally wouldn't. Okay. Now, elemental skill, Spirit Warding Lamp, Troubleshooter Cannon. So basically what happens is that there's a troubleshooter damage the first hit, and there's something called after sales service round, where there's 2 additional homing hits after. So kinda like Tighnari's charge attack, yeah? With the follow-up hits after. And you get 3 of these at C1. It's on a 9-second cooldown and it can actually be reduced up to 6 seconds via the A1 passive. We'll talk more about that in the passive section. This skill is the reason why there was a very early leak in the past of a new weapon type, Cannon. I don't know whether you guys remember this. This was really quite some time back. Sorry. Well, obviously we know now that it's not a new weapon. Dori's E is essentially firing a cannon shot, followed by 2 homing shots after, or 3 at C1. Attack percent multiplier for Dori's E is pretty good, considering the short CD. Short CD also has good synergy with R5 for Avoidance. Now, more importantly though, is the additional after sales service right at C1. I'll talk more about it in the Constellation section. Let's talk about the next talent, which is her Q, the Elemental Burst, Alcazazare's Exactitude. So basically what happens is that Dori summons her genie in a lamp that connects to active nearby character doing 3 things. 1. The connector is like an energy beam between the lamp and the character, whichever your active character is. So any opponents touching the beam takes damage. It's 1 tick every 0.4 seconds. That's why the multiplier is not high. Okay, it's 27% and 30% at level 12. So if you have 30 ticks, which is all the ticks, if every single tick hits, it's about 810%. If half of them hit, it's about 405%. So right off the bat, the percentage isn't exactly high, but there is healing involved here. It takes every 2 seconds. Okay. It heals every 2 seconds. I shouldn't use the word tick, it may be confusing. It heals every 2 seconds. Okay, this is the amount it heals. It also provides energy regen every 2 seconds. So 12-second duration and 20-second cooldown with 80 energy cost. So the heal every 2 seconds it actually has quite a high HP percentage multiplier, so that's nice. And the flat energy is 2.5 at level 10. Starting from level 10 onwards, at level 9 it's still 2.4. So I wouldn't recommend crowding it really, just for 0.1 more energy regen every 2 seconds. Unless you get her C3 or C5, I can't remember. Should be her C3. Okay. Now, in terms of overall multipliers, it's average really, especially when you compare to Coley and DMC. In fact, you can go so far as to say that it's bad. And additionally, especially if it is only half the tits. Now, 810% is assuming all tits hit. I really wouldn't expect all tits to hit all the time. Okay? The bigger the opponent, the higher chance to get all tits, which is similar to Coley and DMC, right? With the way they are quadratic scaling words. And I have no idea what Hoyoverse has against large moves, but yep. So to summarize, I would say Dori's Q provides a range of bad to good damage, really depending on how many ticks you can proc. Pretty nice healing and some energy to help later. It's not bad given its utility options, but it's not fantastic. Okay. So passive wise, I actually like her. I like this very first passive where you have 25% chance to recover some of the material used when crafting character and weapon materials. I'm really looking forward to this because right now the only one we have is Sucrose and her scammy 10% chance bonus that is never 10%. Okay, it's always 5 to 7% for me. I don't know about you guys, but it always rules as 5 to 7 for me. And I forgo. After a character connected to Genie triggers an Electro Charge, Superconduct, Overloaded, Quicken, Aggravate, Hyperbloom, or Electro Sword or Crystallized Sword with essentially all Electro reactions, the cooldown of Spirit Warning Lamp, which is her E, is decreased by 1 second. You can trigger this effect once every 3 seconds. So essentially, while her Q is active, if the active character triggers an Electro reaction, the E cooldown is reduced by 1 second, and this can be triggered once every 3 seconds. Given her E cooldown is 9 seconds to begin with, factoring in your Q cast time, etc., you effectively get a 2-second reduction because your E will be ready by then. You know what I mean? Your E will already be ready by then by the time you are ready to get, say, a third reduction. So, generally speaking, her cooldown is basically reduced from 9 seconds to 7 seconds, not 6 seconds. I know I put 6 seconds in the talents, but I did that on purpose so that I can give a proper explanation and analysis here, okay? But whether you can utilize these 7 seconds also depends on rotation, and not to mention additional use equal additional 1 second to your rotation. For my Tighnari and Yae rotation, I actually did not utilize this passive effect at all. This passive may be better used in Bloom comps, so as to trigger more Blooms, but it's really not by much, because she's not an EM character. Bloom is not going to do high damage for you, or Hyper Bloom is not going to do high damage for you. Yeah. If you are willing to take the additional 1 second, then for sure, it works. Now, the third passive here, A4 passive, when troubleshooter shots from Spirit Warding Lamp hit opponents, Dori will restore 5 elemental energy for every 100% ER possessed. So basically, once you use your E, for every 100% ER that you possess, you gain 5 elemental energy back. Maximum 15, so maximum you should build is 300 ER. But I'll say this passive is useful if Dori is the single electro to help with a high Q cost, 80. But for a double electro comp with her using Favonius, I can tell you this passive is actually useless because with just the ER alone from Favonius Great Sword, she already has more than enough energy. She doesn't even need this. Okay? Actually, or rather, she doesn't need to build more than 100 plus. You don't need to even hit the 200% ER threshold for 10 elemental energy. 5 is enough. I mean, it helps, but it's not that great, right? But you can definitely do more if you want to, if you do really do have energy issues with her. Right, now let's talk about Constellations. So C1, the number of after sales service rounds created by troubleshooter shots is increased by 1. This is actually pretty much her best Constellation, because it essentially increases the number of hits on her E from 3 to 4, and assuming standard ICT applies, she's going to do 2 reactions with 1 E instead of 1. Yeah, she's going to apply Electro twice in 1 E with this C1. So that's why I said this is good. It helps give you more application. C2, when you're in combat and a genie heals a character is connected to, it will fire a genie tube from that character's position that deals 50% of troubleshooter's damage. So troubleshooter shot is the first hit of Dori's E, so 50% of that at level 9 E is about 125%. Level 12 is about 150% attack. Okay. The this effect procs every 2 seconds because it goes together, it ties to your heal, right? So it's like an additional 63 to 75% attack per second, which is not too bad, but also not great. However, there's a caveat here. If the Genie Tube is considered Q damage, it will not help with reactions, so it's pretty meh. If this Genie Tube is considered E damage, then it will help generate an additional reaction every 1 to 2 procs during her Q, and assuming E is not used. You get what I'm saying? While you are in the downtime of your E, with your Q is still there, if this effect triggers and is considered E damage, it will actually generate reaction. So that's really good. Okay. Why do I say 1 to 2 procs? Because if the Genie Tube takes 0.5 seconds to travel from the land to opponent, it actually is a 2.5 second hit. So it's gonna proc every trigger. But if it takes less than that, then it will be 2 procs. Okay? So it really depends on the Genie Tube travel speed. I'm not going to the extent of analyzing that. Also because I couldn't find the video that I first saw that showed the Genie Tube. Alright? So it's really good if she's a single electro in a Bloomcom, but again, you're not building full EM on her though. So I guess you can if you're really using her as a single electro in a Hyper Bloom. But yeah, it's not that great. So unfortunately, I can't find any information on whether it's E or Q damage, but I'm more inclined to think that it's E though, because it uses the E damage as the base, right? 50% of the E. It scales with your E talent level, because it's 50% of your E. Animation is light E as well. It's like the after sales service. It really looks like the after sales service round. Okay, and I would think that MiHoYoverse would probably want to give her more application via C2 too. Okay, so C1, C2 good, C3 pretty straightforward. In fact, C3 increases her burst level, so that helps with the energy regen portion of it, the heals. C4, she basically gives 2 different type buffs to the opponent to your team depending on their stats. So if HP is lower than 50%, you gain 50% incoming healing bonus. If energy is less than 50%, you gain 30% ER. I mean, it's nice. And as usual, C4 is a team buff / utility. I would say the most important factor is obviously the 30% ER. But I can tell you guys, in my Tighnari Yae com, I did not even factor in the C4 effect because I don't really need to. Dori with 2 Favonius procs plus energy from her lamp is already a very good battery. I guess if you really want to utilize this C4, you can drop 1 to 2 ER rolls on your teammates, but it's a little risky on dropping 2, since this only works for less than 50% energy, not throughout. So if, for example, from 0 to 50% energy, if you get energy op instead of energy particle, you stand to gain even lesser from this. Alright? So personally, I can tell you, at least for my Tighnari Yae comp, I wouldn't bother dropping, because their ER requirements already roll in that comp. Most of the time, if you see my math guides, I always try to push the ER as low as possible, where at least on the main DPS. Okay, C5 value for Mora basically just increases your E level by 3. It's straightforward, it's not that groundbreaking. C6, now that's the interesting one. This is the one where people may think that doing NAs on her will be great as a DPS. Here's the thing, okay? Just like Kokomi, Kokomi isn't exactly a DPS character, and this is very very similar to Kokomi, right? When normal attacks hit opponents, all nearby party members will heal HP equivalent to 4% of Dori's max HP. This type healing can occur once every 0.1 second. So, to be honest, this is a bad C6. It's not a good C6. So first off, the electric infusion lasts for 3 seconds, every 7 to 9 seconds. 7 is only if you manage to trigger it twice, right? Or sorry, rather 7 is only if you utilize the passive. The main benefit of this C6 would be some electro application via NA, some clutch shielding for the whole team. So it's really like Kokomi's normal attack during a Q, especially if you're in up against corrosion effect, for example. But again, it's just 3 seconds. It's 3 seconds out of 7 to 9. It's a stretch to say it's 7. But I guess if you're going all out on this to utilize this, maybe you'll be going for the 7 instead of the 9. But either way, it's still not great, right? I mean, it's 3 of 7. And how much character switching do you want to do? So 4% is not too bad for heals, okay? But the biggest problem is still the 3 second, unfortunately. Okay. So I'll say her C1 and C2 are good, especially if C2 is E damage. C4 is nice to have, C6 is bad. C2 is where I would stop personally, since she is rumored to come on banners with 5-star, which I'm not interested in getting more Constellations for. Which, if I'm not wrong, is Ganyu and Kokomi, if I didn't remember wrongly. Yeah, this was done before the live stream. That's why I don't have the updated information here. I apologize for that. Yeah, but if I didn't remember wrongly, it's Ganyu and Kokomi, and Ganyu is C6 already for me. Kokomi is C0. I'm happy with her as a C0. She doesn't need more. She doesn't need Constellations at all. Kokomi do not need Constellations at all. C0 is perfectly fine. Unless you're going for a clan build. Ocean Hill clan build. Okay, but it's still not worth it. So overall kit summary, decent Q multiplier in total, decent but maybe bad if you are not able to get more of the ticks. Now she's able to deal more than one target damage because remember it's a beam. So if they have more enemies in that beam, it hits more than one. But it's hard to position, that's number one. High E multiplier in total if you consider a short cooldown. Electro application is pretty decent at C0 while it gets better at C1 and C2, assuming C2 is E damage. She provides healing plus some energy regen too, and with her bonus coupled with a low ECD, she's actually a decent battery. And it's not just electro battery, she's a decent universal battery. So we'll explore in the math later whether it's worth going semi-DPS build or pure support, but since we'll be using Favonius, 4 Nobles, and there's no 4 VV effect in the Tighnari Yae comp, right? Don't expect her to deal more than Cole's damage. I can tell you her damage will be even lower than Cole. And Cole isn't exactly low if you build her well. Yeah. So a quick note on weapons. The bell may look good on her, but the shield effect from the bell only stays on wielder, which pretty much makes it useless in my opinion. Favonius does feel like a natural fit for her, due to her low ECD and also the fact that there aren't really outstanding 5-star claim options for her per se. Technically speaking, the bell can be good for a clan build that focuses all out on heals and the clan effect. Maybe in future I'll explore it, but unlikely because I have so much Tighnari and sorry, not Tighnari. I have so much Cyno and Lilo videos to do. But personally I'm very inclined towards Favonius for her, just for more utility rather than the bell. Let's talk about important notes and assumptions. Since we already have a common rotation from Tighnari Math Guide 2, which is the Tighnari Yae AggraSpread, we will use that. Favonius and 4 Nobles will be used here. Dori is assumed to have standard IDC across all her tests other than her Q. Yeah, to simplify the math, I'm not going to include the aggravates. I'm not including aggravates here. Okay, so remember when you see the figure later, no aggravates. Why? Because like I said, I don't think she's a high damage dealer to begin with. Although the C1 and C2 does help her trigger more reactions. Okay. So rotation wise, this is exactly the same as Tighnari Math Guide 2, so refer to Tighnari Math Guide 2 for all the details. That's what I'm using as the basis for the math here. Before we look at overall damage, let's just quickly look at the different artifact permutation and stats used in the math. Okay, so basically we have an attack sense, electro, and CR build here. The second permutation will be HP sense, and the next we have double HP goblet as well. And then we have attack, electro, CR, but a different emphasis on the substats where we try to get more HP. Okay, so these are the CR CD value that she will have. I know it's not high, but you gotta know that we are not using a CR weapon. She has no CR essential substat, so all of these do factor in. Sorry, I had delivery call. Alright, so these are the permutation that we are having. Let's look at the damage. Okay, so this is her damage from C0, C1, C2, C3, C4, and C5, C6. Because the C3, C4, and C5, C6 don't really have that much of a difference. Obviously, I'm not including the normal attacks with the C6 healing, to be honest. Not included, okay? And like I said, this permutation has lower C crit on rolls, so higher HP rolls on substats, which makes your life easier in terms of building the artifacts. These are the heal every 2 seconds, and if you have C3 it's slightly higher because of the talent level, and C6, this is a C6 heal effect. Although I did not include any damage, so with the electric infusion I did at least include the heals. So that you guys have a feel of how that effect works. So again, reminder, there are no aggravate reactions in here for her, because at the same time she's also not like a full EM build character. So I think the aggravates, even with her low crit stats, given her low crit stats, the aggravates are not that high. But it will still improve her damage significantly here. It's just that, like I said, I don't think she's a damage character, that's why I have not included them. So Dori's damage is not good. Okay, we are trading her that, but to be fair, we are trading her damage to make her a strong universal battery and enabler with her Vonus and 4 Nobliss, right? Because I'm trying to buff her, you give her a buff, team buff option plus the Favonius for the universal battery. So I myself I'm perfectly fine with lower damage for her. Depending on how much damage, how much you want her to heal, you can choose to adjust your artifact build accordingly. So you can refer to numbers here. Okay, like the highest heal is obviously double HP. I still have CR because I'm using Favonius. If you drop Favonius, you can even go for a healing bonus circlet, right? So basically, I will go for the attack damage CR build with low crit on rolls, getting HP subset instead of crit. But you can adjust according to what artifacts you have. The damage is not priority here, so if you don't have Electro Goblet, you can simply give her attack percent or HP percentage Goblet. It's pretty flexible since she's an enabler support. If you can't get high HP substats, just use HP sense to make up for it, or just use HP sense if you just want higher heals anyway. So it's pretty easy to build here. Build her since we are not going for crit stats here, other than CR circlet plus some CR rolls for bonus, right? So another possible good option would be 4-piece Ocean Heal Clan plus the bell and go all out on her heals, healing, yeah, HP healing bonus. But to me, losing for Vonus is painful. Her being able to use for Vonus twice in one rotation in the AggraSpread, Tighnari Series really helps with reducing ER stats on the 2 DPS characters. So that improves the team DPS significantly. So that's why I would rather give her for Vonus. At least that's for me. Okay? And if you see here, there's a lot of flexibility with what means that you want to give her and what stats you want to build her. It's really how much you want to balance the heal versus the damage that she can do. I mean, it's not a high damage, so you can even go full HP on her, right? But at least gets Favonius with some CR stats. That's my advice. So in terms of TLDR, Dori's kit revolves around increasing her number of hits, which helps with her damage and electro application, along with other constellations giving utility like ER, C4. Her talent multipliers are pretty average due to the large variance on the Q, although E is good. So like I said, I'll prefer to give her Favonius, especially with her low ECD. If you want her to deal more damage and heal more, you can go for Ocean Heal Clan with the bell. But to be honest, even without going for this build, her heal amount is already pretty alright. It heals quite a fair bit. So you don't really need to go all out heal for her. Now, if you even want to go traditional crit DPS build with a 5-star weapon, you do you. But I personally think that those artifacts and 5-star weapon are probably better utilized on other characters. And as for artifact builds, if you are doing a battery support build such as 4 Nobliss plus Favonius, the damage will not be high, and you can just build HP with CR. No harm going for more crit stats, but they wouldn't really make a difference, so I wouldn't recommend to farm just for her. She will work just fine with the 4 Nobliss pieces that you already have. If you can get a decent CR from it. Okay, so this is very important. You don't need to farm for her. Just use whatever 4 Nobliss pieces that you have, as long as you can get a decent CR. Even with just 23k HP and no healing bonus circlet, she can already heal 4 to 4.5k every 2 seconds. So for 4 Ocean Heal with the bell, you obviously go HP healing bonus, but I have not done math for that. I don't think I'll be doing it. There's just too much other math that I need to do for Cyno and Nilo. Maybe even Candice. So Dori can be built in a strong off-field electro enabler, C2, while being a strong universal battery, thanks to Favonius synergizing with a low ECD, and some energy regen from her Q itself as well. So she's also an electro healer, so that's nice for the folks who didn't manage to get Cookie. but she's not a must pull. So it really depends on whether you want the 5-star on the banner. Okay, you really depends on whether you want the 5-star on the banner, on whether you are getting Dori, or if you feel courageous, you are quite a fair bit away from soft PT, you can do a couple of 10 pulls just to try, right? Alright, so what will be coming next will be the Cyno video series. No change from the first Cyno Math Guide 1, because the next coming up will be for TF AggraSpread. In fact, it will be the 18 seconds, then the 10 seconds. I'm also hoping to see the lead changes be confirmed so I can update those into the math itself. Alright, so thanks everyone for watching. I hope this quick Dori Math Guide 1, quick by my standards, my usual Math Guide lamps. I hope this is helpful to you guys if you are thinking of getting her, or whether you are on the fence of getting her, and including how to build her, etc. Don't waste your efforts farming for her. You are better off farming for the so many other 5-star characters that are coming in Sumeru. Okay. Alright. If you like the content, remember to like video and click subscribe for more. Bye.